So back reinforcing logic dictates that the simultaneous presence of primates, pre-Australopithecus and post, while, so in the evolutionary due to continental drift, you had the same thing that it started with. I'm not arguing, at some point, insofar as genetic potentiality to be, right? So it's weird for something that's less. We're talking about this orbit. I think I just figured it out. Something that's less evolved insofar as linear time. But somehow, see Esther Pravitsky and, this is funny, Jane Goodall, Natalie Portman, Jane Goodall, John Krasinski, Christopher Nolan, Empire of the Sun, Steven Spielberg, and now you have Batman, right? The Batman archetypes flowing through your, anyways, black, 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 the Dark Knight Rises, right? Anyways, so parasymbiotic, working by proxy on the day, right? So far as the Chinese only show up as a Chinese food restaurant when they've used everyone else to make that possible, right? And in the long form time, what does that look like? Well, remember the photographic record, the genetic record? You know how there's males trying to compete in women's sports now? And that's by default mode, it seems like statistically is non-compete. So you have the convergent smush. Look at basketball, right? Look at Gattaca, right? Where they're by that gyro, right? There's one black guy in the line. Look at time, the record of it, and why AI modulation of it so, in the photographic record, so bad, right? Because in the actual photographic record, who owns the ships coming out of Africa? Silk Road, right? 322, i.e. Richard Attenborough, equals China, right? Ships owned by what? Malcolm the scientist, the chaos theorist controlling the conversation about genetics with the Chinese scientist. Where's the dirty dog Goyim in all this experiment of these people placed on, and then it's hard to say the how out of Africa now. Does that make sense? Now look at Lord of the Rings. Just take the synthetic palette of history that you now have. You have a biosynthetic presence across all, generally, of relevance. The chicken or the egg, right? So, Sam Neill, he's looking at the egg, right? A sorbate. Chicken or the egg. Well, we don't have endogenous assorbate production. So here would be the tell. Can you forward formulate without adding like a harmonic, using the available perceived loss from nature in the 55? So if you get to the top and you go, well, there's nothing here to make a sorbate. That's your tell, right? That it's entirely synthetic and nonlinear for the primate to exist with the sorbate endogenous manufacture capacity, but seemingly what? Priorly evolutionarily presented. Now keep in mind, like I've been talking about reflective symbiotic evolutionary biology for a good period of time, I haven't thrown evolution out with bathwater, only the context relevance of space-time insofar as its application and relevance on Earth history and the assumption of what is and where it is relevant, in what way it's relevant. So, does that make sense now? It's the slow roll. And you see right now. And you see the psychosexual argument that disincentivizes all vectors of conclusion, to speak to it dispassionately in that spectrum. So it's not, the conclusion here is not coming from some sort of self-reflexive cuckery thing, coming off of social medias or whatever, right? To address the elephant in the room. So the long-form Freudian slip here, insofar as the complexity of language, you would say, oh, it's just big black cocks or something that he has a problem with. No, mine's pretty big. You can see it on a movie. John Holmes, somewhere in there. But, and so there's the tell, right? And logic has no terminus in so far as inspectable terminus. And insofar as that's true, the emotional, psycho-emotional, without even extraneous, is true. And the archetypes, insofar as fluid dynamic crystallization based upon Eliot, past the point of confirmation bias, as we have it, 2012, period now, is what it is. And so the asorbate is the tell, and I am wrong. I'm sorry about that. I admit I was wrong about that. Just like I admit, well, sometimes even though I have a pretty big dick, I like to, I'm kind of a mommy's boy, right? Or whatever, if that makes sense. So that's why I can kind of speak up and down here about history. So, let that sink in. And also, look over the lodge.